This topic of critical judgmental mind seems to have pushed a button, so we'll continue with it for a few days because some people have written in some things. So one person said, I've been noticing how the senses are involved in the judgmental mind. Recently I've been focusing on the eye consciousness and how super quickly judgment rises just from laying eyes on a person. This seems to be the case for all the senses. I'm not sure if it's due to expectations or just a mistaken and erroneous mind. They don't fit into the instant box I put them into. Yeah. Yeah. So, yes, quite definitely. And this is one of the reasons why the Buddha really told us as practitioners to guard our senses, because whatever we perceive with our five senses, we instantly have the habit of starting to conceptualize about. And since our mind is overwhelmed with attachment and dissatisfaction, and anger, and since inappropriate attention kind of just goes at almost anything we see, then it's very easy for attachment and anger to arise towards, people or objects or whatever. And then the judgmental critical mind is a form of anger, isn't it? So we just start judging, criticizing, getting more dissatisfied, more unhappy, wishing that they would follow our advice and change, and how the world is unfair, and blah blah. So that fits in with the next thing somebody wrote me. Yeah. So that person, the previous person, commented on how the senses seem to instigate the judgmental mind, and I said that's how it's good to restrict what we put our senses in contact with. This person says, sadly, one of the many things that gets my judgmental mind going is related to what Lama Yeshe described as giving a good visualization. Remember, I say that Lama Yeshe tells us that we, as monastics, should give a good visualization, quote, quote, to people. In other words, we should be kind people that, yeah. So how people move through space in a monastery: loud, heavy-footed walking, clomp, clomp, clomp. Opening and closing doors loudly, bang, bang. Humming, whisper, whistling. Isn't that against our precepts anyway? Looking around unabashedly while eating. Who has that? Where did they get that? I want some. When sitting, looking around when sitting in the meditation hall. This session could be over with. The visual and auditory senses get a hit, especially in the meditation hall. Loud flipping of pages, flat, flip, flip, flip. Hasn't Venerable said we aren't supposed to be reading during the sessions? Why are they doing this? Toe tapping. Aren't they supposed to be sitting cross-legged so their legs are on the floor so they can't tap their toes? Exercising their limbs. Yawning. There's actually someone here who yawns very loudly in meditation. Yeah, this is all during silent meditation. Packing up the stuff on one's meditation table right after the 5-minute bell is rung, when there's still 5 minutes more to meditation. So packing it all up. Yeah. Okay, so that kind of stuff happens. You didn't mention clicking the mala loudly. What happened? Or taking their jacket off and on, putting their jacket off and on. So then this starts with, hey, you've been here for a while, or you've been here for a long time. Why aren't you being mindful that you're in a room with other people and how you're affecting others, for God's sakes? Only one person wrote this, but I think you all kind of signed off on it. And then I realized that I am just the same. I am not always mindful, and very likely in those moments these people are totally unaware of what they're doing. Yeah. So when we realize that, you know, we're the same, that they're totally unaware, that helps us alleviate, you know, our judgment and criticism for them. That doesn't mean what they're doing is okay, but we have to deal with our mind. We can't always deal with theirs. But that also doesn't mean that we don't comment on behavior that's inappropriate. Yeah, and this gets confusing for people because sometimes people think, oh, I'm just so judgmental that I better just keep my mouth shut and not comment about anything. And then you do that, and then people start doing all sorts of things that are not appropriate. Yeah, and when actually it would be, you know, once we get our own critical judgmental mind under control, then to look with compassion and say, somebody's doing something harmful here, you know, or something inappropriate, something that could be damaging to other members of the community, something that could give newcomers the wrong idea. I mean, imagine if you know, somebody's flipping pages and tapping their toes and packing up their stuff, and people come in for a meditation course and they see the residents doing that. How is that going to influence the people who come here to learn how to meditate? Yeah, so there's two things. One is we have to restrain our own judgmental, critical mind, but the other one is with compassion, we also have to point things out and bring them up in a community setting. And one way I think that is a very helpful way to do that is to say, I have noticed this, da 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 da, and then put it as a question, is this appropriate behavior inside the meditation hall? Or I have heard people clomping down the hallways in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. Is this appropriate behavior? Yeah, and so you ask it as a kind of question, and then the community can discuss it. And that is a good way to bring it up. That's much different than coming in the meeting and going, so-and-so, God, in the middle of the night, they're always glum, 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 glum. Can you tell them to shut up? You know? So, you know, there's different ways of saying things that will produce different reactions. Okay? So, there's something. Then there's another thing. I was thinking, somebody brought it up yesterday, how sometimes we get reprimanded, or, you know, somebody tells us something isn't appropriate, but then we see somebody else in the community doing it, and then our mind we go back to a child's mind. You know, it's not fair. Mommy, Daddy, so-and-so gets to do it. Why can't I? Do you remember that mind? We have it as adults too, don't we? You know, sometimes I think maybe that's the first phrase American children learn is, it's not fair. Yeah, isn't it? You know, when you have brothers and sisters, first thing. Okay, so what the way I often ask people to question it is for them to look at what the other person's doing that, the community doesn't seem to mind when they're doing that same behavior, that, what else they're doing in their life, what their role is in the community when they're doing that behavior compared to when we do it. Okay? Because that person may be doing that because it helps them facilitate their service to the Sangha, or it helps them to keep themselves balanced. You know, they need that because they're doing a job that, is really difficult, whereas we're not. Yeah, that's why I always tell the young ones, when your whole job is just to wash the floor and clean the dishes, rejoice. You know, that's the only thing you have to take care of. Wait until you have responsibility and, you know, the big responsibilities, and then see what things are like. Yeah, so to really see, you know, what else is this person doing? What do they have on their plate? And then that can also help us understand why perhaps that particular thing is okay for them. Whereas for us, you know, with our state of mind, what we need to train in, what our role in the community is, we need something a little bit different. So that's one thing. The second one is when we're saying, you know, it's not fair. So-and-so gets to miss practice, but I have to go. Then, you know, my question is, so you want to have that other person's hindrances? Yeah? I mean, because going to practice is why we came here, isn't it? You know, keeping the discipline is why we came here. So when our mind says, why do I have to keep the discipline and not them? We're going against our own intention for coming here. And that isn't a very Dharma mind, because that mind is saying, I want worldly happiness. How come they can have the worldly happiness and I can't? Isn't it? You know, when we say things like that. Yeah? It's because we're wanting some kind, you know, we're wanting some kind of worldly happiness. And, oh, so-and-so, you know, they can sleep in late, but I can't. So-and-so can, you know, doesn't have to, I have to do dishes more times than so-and-so does. You know, I mean, all these kinds of things. So just to look at our mind and how ours is quite a worldly mind in when we want to do those things. And even if the other person has to do that, let's say, you know, sleep more than you sleep, it could very often be because they have some kind of hindrance. And so that's why I say, do you want to have that hindrance that that other person has, where you have a body that needs to sleep more, that takes time off of your meditation practice? You know, you're saying, why can they sleep so long and I have to get up? Okay, you want to sleep longer? You want more hindrances for your practice? Yeah? You want to have that kind of karma? So, you know, we should really look when we complain about what others are doing, you know, and what, to really look and see, you know, do I really want that? Is that something that corresponds to my reason for coming here? Or am I just craving some kind of worldly pleasure? Okay, so I'm speaking in terms of a monastery right now, but all of this applies to an office, to a family, to anything, you know. Whenever we're complaining about what somebody else does, you know, do we, you know, or they get to do such and I don't. Well, check up. Yeah, what is our motivation for that? And do we really, you know, want to have that hindrance? Okay, so I think that's enough for today to think about. Clomp, 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 clomp. We also complain about how people eat too, don't we? Or somebody has their elbows on their table around their bowl. You know, the prison mode. It's my grub, don't you look at it. Okay? So, yeah. So let's check up. And we'll continue tomorrow.